Here I wanted to work on really establishing the values and color for the rest of the journey. I am picking colors from what's already on the canvas, so it's a quick process. I am constantly looking at the image as a whole and making decisions on whether it feels right in terms of composition and if the overall mood is good. Just remember, it's about the bigger picture, and we want to avoid the small details, especially at this stage. Now I am adjusting the tone on the clouds and trying to understand the form on the clouds. When rendering the sky clouds, treat them like other objects. It's basically a shape with form. So there is a core shadow, there is a light and dark side to them. And in terms of color, clouds are not actually white. They do have color, so pay attention to them when you walk outside. I'm scribbling some stuff and I'm thinking about different sizes and edges as well. Even on the clouds, you're gonna see the soft edges and the hard edges. And I'm layering and stacking the clouds with large clouds to small clouds to create a one big mass shape as a whole. So from a distance, it's a big mass with overlapping shapes. Overlapping is really going to push the depth. I'm mainly working on the midground and background in this section. And to add some flavor to your environment, play with randomness. Things like variety of heights, variety of small shapes within the big masses. Naturally, we have this tendency to balance everything. So to create a sense of randomness, it's more of an act with intention. When I say random, I mean controlled randomness, controlled chaos. So it looks random, but there's a consistent flow to it, a rhythm. It's actually challenging and it takes quite a lot of thinking to produce them. So keep going back to those major shapes and you can use lasso tools to select and transform. Now just with the Photoshop layering, I do like to keep it as simple as possible. But if you have more, it's totally okay. It just means more things to manage. I usually have the foreground, the midground, and the background, and the sky on its own layout. And if I start adding shapes that really affect the image, like the character, I would sometimes have them on their own layout as well. Again, I mean, there's no rule. It's just a personal choice. Now, in a production environment, this is probably where I would add photo textures or color pick from photos because it's a battle against time. Using photos or even 3D or anything to speed the process up is helpful when working. So with photos, I usually just set it to overlay on top of the painting and erase out what's unnecessary. Now it may sound easy, but using photos can be tricky because it has a lot of noise and some really contrasty value arrangements. And it can take time to adjust to suit your painting. Whether you choose to use photos or not, please understand that you still need to understand the fundamentals or else you can end up relying on photos and be limited to your creativity, and the result can lose that consistency. What we want to see is you, not the photo. I just want to mention about flipping images, because it's actually a very useful way of seeing and spotting some flaws. I usually have the flip horizontal set to a shortcut key, but what it does is it allows us to have a fresh take on the picture, so the flaws you couldn't see before, they become really obvious. And as I mentioned in the previous section, I am working on the dark side of the image. Because it was really cool, as in, color temperature, I'm adding some warmth to the dark side as well, just slightly. With color, you never want to add just one solid color to an area. There's always a mixture of colors, and it's always that interplay between cool and warm. I learned a lot by looking at Monet's paintings. His one is full of color, and it looks good. He made it work. And to understand how it works, it's going to be very useful if you know why it looks the way it does and how it was approved by the people. Now I want to talk about design again. As a designer, you want to be in a position where you can inspire others, and you're providing a reason for your art directors or clients to start a conversation. That's your primary goal. You are a problem solver, obviously, but you also want to problem solve with an intention to start a discussion. Okay, imagine if we were in an empty room, and just a white room. There isn't going to be too much to talk about, but if you place, say, a sink right in the middle of the room, questions will start to spawn. Why? Why is it here in the room? Is it safe? Does it work? This spawning of questions is really good. It's what you want as a designer. Now, this may sound weird, but you actually want to create a problem, so there is something to solve. And the more unique and interesting the design, the more questions you create within you and your directors, or with your clients, or whoever sees it. And to be unique is really just to be yourself. Just lose yourself in your creative process and forget about the fears of being judged. You just want to enjoy it. Now, in design, when you provide the image, it does need to make sense, so you do have to apply logic to your paintings. Unless you're a fine art. Fine art is different to commercial art, so I'm talking about, being a commercial artist and designer. Now I'm just working on adding some detail on the midground rock, and I'm paying attention to the terminator, which is the line separating the light and dark. That's where you actually want to add your textures, so pay attention to that. Okay, just checking some final adjustments, and it's coming to an end, so I'll see you in the next section.